That's pretty good, it's not bad. So whenever I skin or start, I'm working on waiting for a new rig, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll do like a little bit of rig testing, just to kind of like check and see how everything moves. And so this guy's like really simple and it feels pretty good. It's a little segmenty in a couple areas, but you can really see like adding in those extra joints here for the ribbon really does kind of like even out his deformations, which is really nice. So this is a good use. Now we're gonna go ahead and open up his mouth, and we're gonna have a nightmare.
Oh.
So that's the top one, bottom one, and then the top one. So obviously his mouth should be opening, but what's happening is we have a lot of geometry that's really close together, and so it's not really sure where to pull from. Okay, so we'll need to work on that. You'll also notice that when I'm pulling this, it's pulling geometry way further back in the face than we need it to be. Like there's no sense that this has influence down here. Same thing if we go and pull on this one. There's no sense for this guy to be pulling anything up here. All right. Check on the eyes. So we have a little bit of an issue right here. See, it's not really pulling that well. And so what we can do is go into the plane and actually work on skin weighting for that and even that out more and try to fix it. Assuming it'll be the same here. Yeah. Okay. All right. But overall, it looks like it'll be pretty simple. So let's go ahead and start working on these weights. So let's just right click, paint skin weights. If you need to know where the tool is other than just right clicking, you can go under skin, paint skin weights right up here, okay? All right, so if we just click and you'll see all the number of joints we've had actually in the body, and if we actually click on each one of these joints and go down, you'll see the influence that they each have on the mesh, which is kind of interesting. And so depending on what that joint is supposed to be doing, we may want to smooth out the influence or we may want to limit the influence. And there's areas we may even want to paint in more influence. So let's say let's start off with, we'll do follicle joint 1. And so what I'm gonna do for this is I'm gonna go down, it's a little brush tool we can use to paint, and we have options for the tools. So the paint operations we can set to replace, add, smooth, or scale. Usually what I'm gonna be switching between is gonna be replacing and smoothing, okay? Replacing just basically replaces the value from like a 0 to 1 right there. Or we can do smoothing, which will smooth out the values in areas that are maybe a little bit wonky. Okay, so they're both pretty useful. If you go down, like say on replace, you have options for the opacity, which is going to be the opacity of the brush, value, which is going to be the strength of the brush that it's actually painting on. So right now it would be a value of 1, which would be the most strength you can put on, or a value of 0, which means it would be actually erasing any sort of weighting that's going in there. So right now for him, I don't necessarily need this joint to be influencing really that much on the head, because I do have a dedicated head joint that I could be using. So what I'm going to do is go in and paint out some of this influence because I just don't need it.
So you're replacing with a 0 now?
I am replacing with a 0, and then what I'll go in and do is I'll switch over to the head joint and then paint in more for the white. And actually what happens is this will actually dynamically kind of hand off influence to the next joint, so to speak, in the chain or whatever the next closest joint is. So it may actually be adding influence to my head joint right now. So if I go down to my head joint right here, you'll see it's pretty white, but it's got a lot of influence back here. which may not be such a bad thing, because like you would think like if he moves his head, it's probably gonna move the body a little bit, which might be useful. But definitely like on these tentacles, I don't need the influence of the head pulling so much on the tentacle. So I can go in and paint that out too if I want. Because they have plenty of their own joints to worry about. But these little tentacles don't have any joints in them, so I'm gonna go ahead and replace them to a full 1, since they don't really have anything to go on to. Now, if they had joints in them, would I be doing this? No, because that would need to be influenced by their own local joints. Here, I'm just gonna go and kind of paint in some more influence here and there. And then right around where like the lips are, I'm gonna kind of not paint in that area, because I'm gonna focus on the mouth in that area.
Is symmetry working in this one? I can't tell.
No, I don't have the symmetry on. This is also an asymmetrical pose anyway, so that's gonna kind of screw it up. There is an option.
It's symmetry.
Right, it does, but it's not. It's really not. If I go under skin, I do have a mirror skin weights option, so if you're doing like a big complex character, you could just mirror the skin weights from one side to the other. That does have to be a symmetrical pose though. So make sure that if you do this, the guy's just standing in this neutral position, and you can copy the weights over. So you'll see this is in black and white. We also have an option for going to a color ramp, which might make things a little bit easier to see. And so the color ramp is it's just exactly the same. It's just that it's using the RGB spectrum to show off the values. They get a little bit more definition, I suppose. We can also change our brush profiles. It's something that's really relatively kind of faded out to literally a square hard brush if you need to do some really like hard values, which I kind of find useful if I need to like block out weight really quickly.